Hi internet, so I'm doing a book review of The Maze Runner by James Dashner. So the Maze Runners, I've only read the first one. It's an alright book. Give it a solid 50, maybe 60, because it makes me want to read the Scorch Trials, but it's a solid okay book. So in this book we follow Thomas, who wakes up in the box. Now this box is like pretty much an elevator and he's surrounded by darkness and noises, has no personal memory. So he remembers that his name's Thomas and remembers how the word functions, what it looks like, and like what girls are, what boys are, everything like that, how politics work, what kind of politicians were what, but he can't remember anything personal. Like he doesn't remember if he has a family or friends or what his favourite colour is or if he likes ice cream. Just weird shit like that. So he ends up finding himself in the glades with what I think they say like 30 to 40 other boys, which is real interesting. So it turns out for roughly 2 or so years, every month a new boy will come up and they integrate them into their lives that they have all started there, and once a week supplies come up. Now with Thomas coming up, strange things start to happen. They are in the middle of a giant maze that they're all trying to work out how to get out of, and Thomas is like kind of saying on like, I need to be a runner. That's all I know, is that he needs to be a runner. We meet Chuck and Newt and Albert and Gailey. But yeah, so that's like the synopsis, and it's all about like them trying to get out of this maze and seeing where it takes them. So as I said, I give this a solid, it was a solid alright book. I'm not in love with it. I'll read the Scorch Trials eventually to see what happens, but I'm not like, oh, I have to read the Scorch Trials now, or I want to get the rest of the trilogy so that I can read it. I'm all like, I'll get it just to see what happens, but I'm not really like on the edge of my seat. So once he comes up, weird stuff starts happening. And I can't go into too much detail without ruining a lot of the plot. So I do suggest maybe picking it up if you can get it on sale or something, giving it a brief read, maybe reading it before you watch the movie, although that movie. I think the movie would make more sense if you've read the book than if you haven't, otherwise it's just going to be kind of boring. But yeah, so I'm going to start talking about the book in spoilery detail because I have to get a few things off my chest with it. And I shouldn't have looked down as speaking, but I'm not going to redo that, am I? No. So yeah, if you haven't read the book or watched the movie, go away, because I'm going to be talking about the book and kind of the movie. Yeah, let's do this. So the one thing that annoyed me were the Grievers and the Glades. It would have been better if they were named things that started with a different letter, because as reading it my mind was going fast to read it, and for some reason it just muddled up too much. I was like, wait, was it a grave or a glade or a griever, or what's happening there? When I pictured the Grievers, I pictured like a giant slug with just random arms poking out that would occasionally dig into things, not like those spidery things that were in the movie. And they just have like become pincushions. That's what I pictured. But I guess I can see why they made them the way they were for the movie. All the fucking slang that the Glades use, like shock and all those, I can't identify half of them because they all sound like, again, as I was reading it, because they all started with S apart from whatever the poop one was, I just didn't really get it. I'd be reading it, I'm like, well, I don't know. I'd rather like go through, rewrite all those words as like shit, fuck, and poo, and then see what happens. But yeah, with the way that happened, it took me out of the book too much, and it just annoyed me because you couldn't understand it in a way that you should. Like, sure, have nicknames. Make them start with different letters and have different sounds. Because Shank and Shock, Shank and Shock were two of them, and I'm like, well, That's a big difference, isn't it? Not. That really got on my nerves. What else? There's a lot. I do like Tessa. I like how she came up in the book and everyone was like, whoa, what's with this girl? And then she's like, I'm intelligent and I will solve all the problems. And it turns out she is super intelligent and we don't know how her and fucking Thomas got along. Although I feel like when Thomas, there's a heap of things that happen just to progress the plot and I'm like, well, did that just to progress the plot? What was the point of it? It's kind of stupid. All the things I was like, that just sounded stupid. I really hated when it was like, oh, we haven't made a plot hole, I want this to happen, but instead of writing like a chapter or two where I can slowly explain it, I'm just gonna do this. I'm just gonna do this. And it's just like, what the fuck? I do like how to get out of the maze, it was such a simple thing, but I don't get why Gally was it Gally or Ben? One of them. Well, like, hey, I'm gonna try and kill Thomas. Like, does Wicked want them dead, or were they just trying to prove that he has taken over as leader and that they'll, like, lay their lives down for him? What was happening there? Also, don't get Thomas and Chuck's relationship at all. Like, I get it. Chuck's the youngest, you want to take care of him, but why? Chuck annoyed me to no end. Newt was my favourite, and same with, Miho. I'm gonna call him Miho. I didn't understand Albie. He wasn't around enough of a well-rounded character for me. He was more of a well-rounded character in the movie. Same with Gally. Like, it was like, oh, he's a dick. Wow. So, the math didn't make sense, although I think at one point they do explain that, like, the first there were 30 kids and then it was one each month for 2 years, which means 24 were new and the other ones weren't. But there were only 12 deaths. But Albie and Miho were like the last ones that were there originally, and I don't understand that. Like, how are there so few kids if there was like 20 that were inserted originally? How are there so few of those left? It just, too many things don't make sense to me in this book. I bet I'll read the Scorch Trials and it might make a bit more sense, but there's just too much stuff that doesn't make sense. When they were all like, oh, Wicked's being attacked, I'm like, bullshit! Like, look how long the corridor is! Why would they be being attacked? I like how the movie did it better, where it was like video of them being attacked and there were like dead bodies everywhere, and then they went to a conference room, whereas in the book it just shows a memo. Again, it's more based on the writing than anything. But yeah, have you guys read The Maze Runner? What did you think about it? I have conveyed my emotions on it. I am both annoyed and entertained. So we'll see how this goes. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a lovely week. I will see you next time. Bye.